Fortnite's the Apocalypse chapter 153 is out, and this was a really nice and wholesome chapter, and this also concludes the Fairy Realm arc. Yes, we finally are done with the Fairy Realm arc, which was already a pretty good arc, but the ending itself, very wholesome, and it does tie up some loose ends, and sets us up for the future of part 2 of Fortnite's the Apocalypse. And I can't wait to see what else ends up happening from this story. But before we jump right into this chapter, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps, and it shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. Now with that all out of the way, let's jump right into this chapter. So chapter 153 of Fortnite's the Apocalypse, titled Toward New Adventure. And the cover image is literally just a panel of the manga where Nazienz is giving Percival a much needed haircut. Though I'm not gonna lie, I do kind of like the long flowing hair, but in this case, it's unnecessary. So let's start things off with King in the Am, stating, well, I never would have guessed it. The only way to wake you up wasn't by medicine or magic. It was your friends being exposed to mortal danger, as they're looking on at Nazienz and Percival, as they're at the gate getting ready to leave, with the entire Cayenne family looking off at them. And we finally get Percival's post-time skip design and outfit. I'm just gonna say this. This is definitely his better looking outfit, but Percival, for some reason, I feel like Nakaba just has no goddamn idea how to give Percival a cool looking design. Granted, I enjoy this design a lot more than the previous ones, especially the second outfit that Percival had in 4 Nights, but I don't know, I just feel like Percival's always going to have like the less good character design in terms of his outfits, especially in comparison to like the rest of the 4 Nights. Heck, even his own team have better post-time skip designs and outfits than him, which is crazy to think about. But I'll get used to it. It just doesn't feel like it fits all too well to me. King goes on to say, Percival of the 4 Nights of the Apocalypse. The King of Leonis told me you were a knight of prophecy that'd save all Britannia. You have a great mission ahead of you, no doubt. But before that, I want you to remember one thing. As he looks over at Nazienz and states, while you were asleep, there was one person out there who kept talking to you every day, who worked tirelessly to make you open your eyes. As Nazienz is kind of embarrassing, that doesn't matter, Fairy King, as Percival says, oh, I know that. As Percival goes on to say, putting in all that work for my sake, the things you said to your father and to Yore, and look, I like now that Percival looks more like an adult now, he looks cooler and a lot more mature. Though, as we'll go on to see, he's still the carefree, lackadaisical Percival we all know and love. Percival says, thanks for all that, Nazienz, as Nazienz just starts to blush like crazy and hides his face in his hat. And Percival says, and now I know why you never took baths with me. And he goes on to just like tease Nazienz about it and be like, hey, look, I wouldn't care either way, so why not just go and take a bath again together? As Nazienz just like, come on, this is so sudden. And Tiore's just like, what a dimwit. And I like we got like chibi Percival again, the comedic moments. I like despite Percival literally being and looking more mature, still is the goofball we all know and love. King is smiling at them as he goes over to Nazienz, telling him to come over to him, as he has something to give Nazienz. As then he points at Nazienz, and then a bright light glows around Nazienz, as now around his neck is a piece of Chastival, a piece of King's spirit spear. As he goes on to state, it's just a piece, but still boasting its fair share of power. The sacred tree will transform in many ways to help you in response to your wishes. As I like that this is a really cool gift that King gave Nazienz, as seemingly he can't give a full-on spirit weapon to Nazienz, but giving Nazienz a piece of the spirit spear will end up helping and giving power to Nazienz when needed. So this is definitely a good way for Nazienz to keep his power boost, meanwhile not having access to the actual spirit spear Chastival. Nazienz asks King if he's sure about this, as it's very valuable, but Sixes is off on the distance, just like, wow, lucky him, as Tiore is just laughing as well, kind of teasing Sixes that Sixes isn't the successor. King says, someday, when you return to this realm and the time comes to succeed me as the 4th Fairy King, I will give you the whole spear. As Nazienz looks at the piece of the spirit spear with a smile, as Nazienz just says, oh, I'm not going back. My homeland's always going to be Britannia. Besides, I have no interest in taking the throne. My mission is to become an even better apothecary than Ordo was. As this shocks King so bad that he turns into his fat king form, and this kind of takes Deanna back and says, wow, that was ruthless, just like someone I know. I feel like she's probably making a comparison to maybe like Meliodas with how he'll just say some things without any real regard for other people's feelings sometimes. And I think Nazianz didn't even realize it, that he kind of hurt his dad's feelings. As Tiori says, you gotta watch your phrasing on this. As Nazianz collects himself, as Tiori is basically calming down his dad, as he states, I'm sorry, that didn't come out right. I just mean I won't live here. I'll still come by for visits. As Tiori says, well, you better. That's a promise. As Myrtle goes on to say, with the rest of his siblings behind him, all your brothers and sisters will be waiting. As King wipes away the tears from his eyes, composes himself, he says, now Percival, before you leave my realm, do you have anything you'd like to ask me? Whatever it is, I'll answer you. And Percival says, well, you sure it was okay having that drug of yours get stolen? I like that the whole thing with the speech bubbles just go on to be like a hit to just blow King in the heart. So this does confirm that even though he pushed away and kind of beat Worldane to an extent, the drug of yore was still technically stolen. And I like how Sixtus also just joins in on the jabbing of his dad, just says, for sure, none of this would have happened if you just gave it to Nazianz first thing. As even though Nazianz is saying like, look, hang in there, Fairy King, but King does say, I'm sorry. I didn't do it because I wanted to spend as long as I could with you. Guess I'm kind of a selfish dad. And honestly, this makes a lot more sense as to why he didn't give the drug of yore to Nazianz right away, especially after fully realizing that Nazianz is their kid. He just wanted to spend as much time with Nazianz as he possibly could, and he was being selfish. That tends to be how King is sometimes. He does things for the people he cares about, but sometimes doesn't think things all the way through, or does it in a way that isn't exactly the best. But hey, that's kind of why we love the guy. But after King basically gives his heart out in this instance, Deanne claps her hands and says, look, the drug doesn't matter right now, does it? We can just harvest it again in 1,000 years, which to us obviously is like, it's 1,000 years. But we're also talking about giants and fairies that could live for literal centuries, so to them, it means nothing, the amount of time for 1,000 years, so she does technically have a point. It's not that big of a loss for them at the end of the day. But she goes on to say that, family though, if you lose that, there's no getting it back. If everyone's okay, then I think that's the best thing of all. As Tiori cheers, saying that she agrees with her mother. And Nazianz and Percival look at each other and they just laugh. And honestly, very nice, wholesome moment. And that is kind of the important thing. The entire family is perfectly fine. Nazianz reunited with his birth parents and family. And Percival is back alive and well. So, all's well that ends well in a sense. No one died. We're all good. Even though the drug is seemingly most likely in Arthur's hands right now and there's no clue why they needed it. But we all know it's not going to be good. But moving on, Percival and Nazianz are about to head out through the portal to go back to Britannia after all these years. And as Nazianz thanks them for everything, calling them Fairy King and Giant Queen, King says, yeah, sure, no problem. And the aunt says, take care, alright? As the two of them are kind of more or less upset to an extent, sad to see Nazianz go. But Percival just goes to Nazianz and says, anything else you want to say? Nazianz clenches his fist and just tells the two of them to listen, as with a smile on his face says, Mom, Dad, bye for now. As King and Deanne start tearing up as their child finally called them Mom and Dad, and is off to go off on their own journey once more. And honestly, a really wholesome way for Nazianz to say goodbye. Met his parents, met his siblings, and has fully accepted everything. And I kind of like this resolution. I really do, and I'm very happy about it. And this also means that we'll be seeing Nazianz possibly popping in to see his siblings every now and again in the future. And perhaps in the future big fight, they'll all get a big moment and hopefully they'll have a power-up. I do expect Sixtus and Tiori to primarily be characters that pop up the most, because outside of Myrtle, they got the most characterization and focus in the Fairy Realm arc. But with their goodbyes, Percival and Nazianz pass through the portal, and they're finally back in Britannia. As Percival says, okay Nazianz, let's get going. We got King Arthur to beat, as after they exit out of the portal, we basically see a bunch of area from Britannia completely taken away, with just a black void where the land used to be, showcasing once more that Arthur is still destroying Britannia to make Camelot bigger. Percival says, we gotta if we want to save Britannia. As him and Nazienz run towards the edge of the cliff, they jump, and in an awesome and beautiful 2-page spread, Nazienz and Percival are flying through the air over the decimated Britannia. And I like this 2-page spread, and I like that the two of them are now flying. Also, this means that we're basically going full Dragon Ball now for at least for a good chunk of the cast, because Percival can fly, now Nazienz can fly, Tristan can fly, Gawain can fly, and Lancelot in his fairy form can fly. So that's literally like 5 characters that can fly on their own. Put in on top of Sylvain, and that's 6 characters. So the majority of the cast can fly now. And Donnie also with his telepathy, so yeah, a good chunk of the cast can actually pretty much fly, so that's kind of fun to really look at. Also, cutting back in here from what I said about Percival's outfit earlier, honestly from this angle, this looks pretty cool, and I do kind of like it. It is my favorite out of Percival's outfits, and I feel like it will grow on me as the series progresses. So for now, I am actually okay with it, and I think it looks relatively nice. I also want to mention that Percival doesn't have his helmet, so it seems like Nazienz only really kept Percival's magic cloak that changes sizes for him, but not his helmet, so I wonder if that is in his grave in the Demon Realm as like a keepsake for Zeldris and Gelda to remember Percival by after his death, or maybe they decided to bring the helmet back to Percival's grandfather's grave or something like that. Who knows? But either way, I do kind of like Percival without the helmet, even though his helmet is kind of iconic for him at this point. But either way, I'm really liking it. Nazienz and Percival are flying in the air, as Percival says, okay, first things first, let's reunite with An and Donnie. Boy, I bet they're really going to be mad at me, as Nazienz says, oh yeah, no doubt they're going to be mad. But Nazienz not really getting the hang of flying. Percival grabs his hand, as Nazienz apologizes as he doesn't have the knack for flying down just yet. But Percival just laughs and says, hey, look, I'll hold your hand while we're doing this for right now. Don't worry about it. As Nazienz smiles. And honestly, I kind of like that Nazienz isn't really fully accustomed to flying yet. He literally just awakened his powers. He doesn't even have his wings. So the fact that he can't really fully fly yet, it's a really nice detail and shows Nazienz still has something to really work for. Also, a cool detail I wanted to mention is that, something I didn't mention in the last chapter, but Percival can fly without unleashing his Hope Aura, which is a big change, showcasing that he can use this ability without the hope of others empowering him or utilizing his magic energy in an external way. So that also shows some growth for Percival. As the two of them are flying, Nazienz tells Percival, I know that this might not be an appropriate time to say this, but getting to adventure with you like this again, Percival, I just couldn't be happier. As Percival just says, yeah, me too. And the wholesome smile, I missed it. I missed the guy's smile. Gives you the sense that everything is going to be okay for the story. But in the very last page of the chapter, Percival just says, so Nazienz, you gonna turn into a guy or a girl? Because yeah, now Percival knows how fairies work, and apparently Nazienz still hasn't become either. So possibly not fully embrace the fact that they're in love or whatever. But I just find it funny that Percival's like, you gonna be one or the other? Nazi's like, which one would you prefer? And Percival's like, why not both? That'd be neat to see. With Nazi just saying, just give me a straight answer, will ya? Ending the chapter. Honestly, a pretty funny interaction. Percival not really caring what's going on with Nazienz, and just this funny little interaction between the two of them. There's also confirms, like I just stated, despite Percival and Nazienz reuniting, unlike how Nakaba drew Nazienz in a more feminine way, like some readers have pointed out, doesn't seem to be the case. So, honestly, pretty funny interaction at the end of the chapter, and now we're off to reunite with the rest of the main cast. And honestly, I cannot wait. We're definitely going to get a reunion with An and Donnie within the next chapter or two. We'll probably cut back to see what's going on with maybe the Tristan platoon. We might see Tristan, Gawain, or Lancelot at some point. It'd be really cool if we get to see what's going on with Meliodas post-time skip, and what's going on with potentially Bon again. But my money is maybe we'll cut back to Camelot, see what the rest of the four perils are going to react when Worldane states that, yeah, the plan to seal away King's powers kind of failed. Also, Percival, one of the four Knights of the Apocalypse, is alive again. So the prophecy about Arthur dying and Camelot being destroyed, that's still going to happen. So I'm curious to see the reactions to that. And I'm curious to see how Arthur's going to react to this. Whether he'll be upset, whether he'll be kind of nonchalant and puts it off as a joke, as he is still incredibly confident that he will deal with the 4 Knights of the Apocalypse in his own way. But either way, all of these possibilities are potentially going to happen in the next chapter, and we'll get the next arc, most likely next chapter 2, with full confirmation. But what did you guys think of this chapter? Leave your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below, and if you haven't already, like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps, it showcases you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. The time skip has been nothing but hits lately, and now that Percival's back, I'm excited to see how this new adventure is going to play out.